Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So today, with your permission, I would like to speak on Bhagavad Gita chapter 12, verses 6 and 7. So if anyone has their cell phones, you can turn it up so whoever's on the other side of the conversation can listen as well. That would be great. Thank you. So one thing before I started this, I was just thinking about the nature of the Bhagavad Gita. So for those who've studied literature, there's a famous author named Leo Tolstoy, and he wrote a book called War and Peace. And War and Peace is a very, very long book. And the reason I bring that up is Leo Tolstoy was paid per word. So something that could have been 5 words long for a sentence, he would have expanded it to like 20 words. So there's a lot of extra, what you say, fluff in the book. Whereas in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is pretty straight, direct, right? There's no, oh, you could do this, you could do that. He tells Arjuna straight, surrender to me. Don't give up the battle, don't fight. Don't run away from the battle, just keep fighting, but fight for me. And that's what the Bhagavad Gita is all about. Very direct, very straight commentary. So if anyone ever feels like they don't know what's going on in their world or their lives or they're struggling, just open up the Bhagavad Gita, read a page, a verse, a book, a chapter, whatever it is. I guarantee you that you will feel some sort of inspiration. That's my spiel for the Bhagavad Gita. If it was an infomercial, I would charge for that, but I'm not.
It's pretty direct.
So if it's alright, if you could repeat after me. Like I said, I'm reading from chapter 12, verses 6 and 7. Title is Devotional Service. Yetu sarvani karmani Mayi sanyasya matpara Ananyena iva yogena Mam dhyayanto upasate Teshamaham samudharta Mrityu samsara sagarat Bhavamina chirat parta Maya veshita chetasam. The translation, also repeat if you want to. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, and being devoted to me, without deviation, engaged in devotional service, and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pratap, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada ki jai. It is explicitly stated here that the devotees are very fortunate to be delivered very soon from material existence by the Lord. In pure devotional service, one comes to the realization that God is great and that the individual soul is subordinate to Him. His duty is to render service to the Lord, and if he does not, he will render service to Maya. As stated before, the Supreme Lord can be appreciated only by devotional service. Therefore, one should be fully devoted. One should fix his mind fully on Krishna in order to achieve Him. One should work only for Krishna. It does not matter what kind of work one engages in, but that work should be done only for Krishna. That is the standard of devotional service. The devotee does not desire any achievement other than pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. His life's mission is to please Krishna, and he can sacrifice everything for Krishna's satisfaction, just as Arjuna did in the battle of Kurukshetra. The process is very simple. One can devote himself in his occupation and engage at the same time in chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Such transcendental chanting attracts the devotees to the personality of Godhead. The Supreme Lord herein promises that without delay He will deliver a pure devotee thus engaged from the ocean of material existence. Those who are advanced in yoga practice can willfully transfer the soul to whatever planet they like by the yoga process, and others take the opportunity in various ways. But as far as a devotee is concerned, it is clearly stated that here that the Lord himself takes him. The devotee does not need to wait to become very experienced in order to transfer himself to the spiritual sky. In the Varaha Purana, this verse appears, Nayami paramam stanam achir adi gatim vina gurudas skandam aropya yatecham anivarita. The purport of this verse is that the devotee does not need to practice Ashtanga Yoga in order to transfer his soul to the spiritual planets. The responsibility is taken by the Supreme Lord himself. He clearly states here that he himself becomes the deliverer. A child is completely cared for by his parents, and thus his position is secure. Similarly, a devotee does not need to endeavor to transfer himself by yoga practice to other planets. Rather, the Supreme Lord, by his great mercy, comes at once, riding on his bird carrier Garuda, and at once delivers the devotee from material existence. Although a man who has fallen in the ocean may struggle very hard and may be very expert in swimming, he cannot save himself. But if someone comes and picks him up from the water, then he is easily rescued. Similarly, the Lord picks up the devotee from his material existence. One simply has to practice the easy process of Krishna consciousness and fully engage himself in devotional service. Any intelligent man should always prefer the process of devotional service to all other paths. In the Narayanaya, this is confirmed as follows. Yavai Sanda Sampati Purushartha Chatushtaya Daya Vina Tad Apnoti Naro Narayana Shraya. The purport of this verse is that one should not engage in different processes of fruitive activity or cultivate knowledge by the mental speculative process. One who is devoted to the Supreme Personality can attain all the benefits derived from other yogic processes, speculation, rituals, sacrifices, charities, etc. That is the specific benediction of devotional service. Simply by chanting the holy name of Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. A devotee of the Lord can approach the supreme destination easily and happily, but this destination cannot be approached by any other process or religion. The conclusion of Bhagavad Gita is stated in the 18th chapter. Sarva dharma parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshasyami ma sucha. One should give up all other processes of self-realization and simply execute devotional service in Krishna consciousness. That will enable one to reach the highest perfection of life. There is no need for one to consider the sinful actions of his past life, but because the Supreme Lord fully takes charge of him, therefore one should not futilely try to deliver himself in the spiritual realization. Let everyone take shelter of the Supreme Omnipotent Godhead Krishna. That is the highest perfection of life. Again, the translation. But those who worship me, giving up all their activities unto me, and being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service and always meditating upon me, having fixed their minds upon me, O son of Pratap, for them I am the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So once again, thank you for allowing me to speak and say a few words. It's funny that, as Neelamani Prabhu said, I was brought up in the Krishna consciousness movement, and this was actually one of our first temples that we came to. So we were at 55th Street, at least that's where when I was born, we were going there, and when the temple was sold, as they were trying to figure out where to go, Gornitai came to Towaco. So for bunch of months, I would say, we used to come to Towaco every Sunday. And one memory I have very vividly is we were celebrating Dussehra here. So I think before this used to be, it's enclosed now, but before it was an open porch. So there was Ravan somewhere, I think on that side, and because we were kids, we weren't allowed to be near the effigy of Ravan. So we were standing over here watching all the fire and everything go off for Ravan there. But so full circle, I guess I came back. Gornitai allowed us to come here and take their shelter. So thank you everyone for again letting me be here. So, like I said earlier in my sales pitch on Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is very direct. And up to this point, we were learning, right? Krishna is explaining all these different paths to Arjuna, how to come to him, like you should do karma yoga, right? Work for him first. To give up all this other stuff, work for him, but don't stop fighting. Understanding who the body is. Who are we? We're not the body, we're the soul. Understanding all those relationships. But now he really summarizes everything by saying, if you worship me, I will deliver you. Forget that you'll come to me. I will actually deliver you. But we have to understand, well, what characteristics is there for him to deliver us? So he outlines here different options here, or different characteristics, like I said. So the first thing he said is giving up all their activities unto me. So what does that mean? Right? Again, earlier on, Arjuna said, it's better I live in the forest than fight in this war. And Krishna said, I'm paraphrasing, you're a fool. Right? I didn't tell you to stop fighting. You have to fight. But change it. Fight for me. So how does that apply in our lives? A lot of us work their normal jobs, 9 to 5s, 9 to 6, 9 to 7s. We have family life at home. We have so many things to do. So how can we give it up, so to speak, for Krishna? Recently, I was having a conversation with a godbrother of mine, and this kind of inspired me with this verse, where he was saying, see, a lot of times, especially in our movement, we think, oh, all we have to do is just surrender to Krishna and Krishna will provide. But that's not exactly right? Prabhupada also never said, oh, you just sit in the temple and things will happen. We have to do work. But what is the purpose of that work? Other than taking care of our families, which we have to do, we should work for Krishna. So Rupa Goswami, I think it was Rupa Goswami, who gave the breakdown of whatever we earn, 50% should be given right to Krishna's service. 25% should be used for family maintenance, 25% should be used for emergency funds. Not saying that, hey, you have to start donating 50%, but the mindset is what? Whatever I'm earning, anything that I'm doing, I want to make sure I can provide for Krishna in any way possible. And that gives us an impetus to continue our work, not just sit around, wait for the paycheck to come and we're done for the day. It gives us an impetus to keep pushing hard, keep struggling so we can become successful, both materially and spiritually. But that also gives us a sense of ownership, right? Like, I'll talk a lot about this idea of ownership. What does ownership mean? For ownership means we take on that responsibility. That's the only way we will be successful at something. I think many times you'll see that if you want to, maybe with your kids especially, you want them to do well in school, they have to want to do that as well, right? I remember growing up, my dad was very strict. So he was the kind of parent, when you came home with a 97 on the test, he's going to ask, what happened to those 3 points? It was like, I got something wrong. Well, now study. Make sure you get 100 the next test. So naturally speaking, that didn't really give me much of a interest in want to succeed, because I realized I was only wanting to succeed because I didn't want to get in trouble with my dad. But then when I went to college, it's a whole total different ball game, because there's no one there. Right? My dad's not going to know if I got an 80 on a test or a 70 on the test. And I don't have to necessarily show him my report card at the end of the year. Of course I did, don't get me wrong, I did. Make sure your kids always show you their report cards. I'm not saying that. But the difference there was, and I realized this in college, was I wanted to do well in school. I wanted to take those tests and pass so that I can have a terrific future, whatever that future was. So in that same way, whatever we are doing, it's not just so I can be rich or I can drive a fancy car or I can buy a fancy house. It's whatever I'm earning, I want to be able to be in a position where I can help Krishna or I can help his devotees. You see right now, there's, we're doing a fundraising program for the Towaco, the new Parsippany temple. Recently, we just did a fundraising program for the Brooklyn Radha Govinda Mandir. There's an ongoing program going on for the Mayapur TOBP project, right? Gita Nagri, they're looking for, the CSA project. There's all these different projects there. So we may not be able to contribute physically, right, by going to the Gita Nagri and cultivating the land, tilling the soils, or growing the vegetables. We may not be able to serve Radha Govinda on the altar or go there on a regular basis. We may not be able to come to Towaco on a regular basis to serve, but there's other ways to do that. I think in the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya, is it Sarvabhauma? Who was the wealthy person?
Shivananda Sen.
Shivananda Sen, thank you, sorry. So he put it on himself to pay for all the accommodations for all the devotees as they were going from Mayapur to Jagannath Puri. Right? He didn't have to do that. He obviously wanted to join them. He couldn't also necessarily join them all the time because of his business, but he found this opportunity, a way to serve, and he used his finances in that sense to be able to serve them. Right? And again, I just want to also clarify, it's not always just about money. Like, I think that's I'll be a little blunt here. I think that's a little, a misnomer of the Hare Krishna society or movement. We're always after money. No, we're after service. We want people to serve. So if you're an architect, let's say, you can serve. That's your profession. You can serve by help to design something. If you're a computer scientist or a programmer or developer like me, you can help build an application or a way to get people to come to the temple. Like we were talking yesterday, right? It's not just, how am I improving in my Krishna consciousness? It's how am I also encouraging others around me in their Krishna consciousness. So that's how I understand when Krishna says, give up all their activities unto me. When he says that, again, don't run into the forest. Whatever you're doing, just think of Krishna while you're doing it. It's as simple as that. Your spreadsheets, your cookbooks, whatever it is, just think of how am I going to please Krishna with this activity. The second point he gives is devoted without deviation. And this is, I would say, an interesting one because everything we do, we say we're thinking of Krishna, but there's a little tinge of our own desire in there, right? If we go to any temple, a lot of times we'll see, we do all sorts of pujas because we want something in return, right? Prabhupada uses the term order supplier. Say Krishna is not an order supplier. Many times you want something, you'll say, if I pray to Krishna, I'll get it. And if you don't get it, what happens? Either you get angry, you get frustrated, you might even lose faith, because you're looking at Krishna as someone as only that can give you something. Like you'll hear, the funny joke or commentary is that right now there's like award season. So all the big TV, movie, music, all these awards are there, sports awards, whatever. And always the one who wins, a lot of times they'll say, I'd like to thank God for giving me this. Now you ask the losers, the ones who didn't win, are you going to thank God? A lot of times they're going to say no, because they didn't get the elusive prize. And again, going back to my growing up. So, again, we had to wake up, we were doing our arti with our dad, and the days of the big test, I was sat in front of the altar, like, Krishna, please, I need to get this test. Please help me remember everything so that I can pass this grade, I can pass this test, I can pass this test. I didn't pass. So then I looked at that, I was like, all right, from now on, any big test, I'm not going to pray to Krishna, because maybe I have a chance of passing that. And I was like, why is this happening? And then I realized, 15:15, Krishna says, I am knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So in this case, I wanted the grade. Krishna helped me forget what I needed to learn. Those are those exams I did not show to my dad, by the way, so don't worry about that. Luckily, he's in India, so he won't know this. Don't listen to that, Dad. I passed everything, I promise. So that's, again, when we look at Krishna, a lot of times we want that. That doesn't, again, mean that we shouldn't do it. It's better to do that when we're thinking of Krishna than to not do it at all. Krishna says there's 4 types of people that surrender to him. One who's a distress, one who's looking for wealth, one who's inquisitive, trying to figure out what's going on, and one who's actually interested in the path. So he says the best person is the one who's interested in the path, but he doesn't denounce the other people. So it's better you go to Krishna than not go to him at all, because at least you're still remembering him. This is in relation to this is the story of Dhruva Maharaj. How many of you are familiar with the story of Dhruva Maharaj? So Dhruva, so I'll do the Cliff Notes version of it. Dhruva wanted the love of his father. He didn't get the love of his father due to his stepmother. So he runs into the forest on the advice of his own mother to pray to Lord Vishnu. And he didn't know what to do. How should he pray to Vishnu? He didn't know anything. He's a 5-year-old boy, just ran into the forest. Because of that desire that he wants to get Vishnu, even though it was for material benefit, he wanted Vishnu, who appears to him, Narad Muni. And Narad Muni teaches him how to approach Vishnu. He teaches him the mantra, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And from that path, Dhruva Maharaj's goal was only one thing. I wanted a kingdom better than my father's. He didn't care. He didn't know who Vishnu was. He didn't understand any of that. He just wanted one goal. I want a kingdom better than my father. So he did everything that Narad Muni taught him to do. And sure enough, Lord Vishnu appeared to him. Dhruva sees him. He doesn't know what to say. Because he's just like, whoa, this actually worked. So he bows down, offers his obeisances, and Lord Vishnu touches him with his conch shell. And in that little instance, all the intelligence came to Dhruva. And so Dhruva, you should read his prayers. They're very beautiful prayers because he's just glorifying the Supreme Lord in his own capacity. But one of the things he says is, I was a fool. Like, I came to you because I wanted something material, and I realized that's nothing. Big kingdom, big deal, who cares? I actually just want to serve you over and over again. So of course Vishnu gives him the pole star, the North Star as the kingdom. But that was not really, that was like an after effect. What Lord Vishnu really appreciated was Dhruva Maharaj's love. Because that's what came out. After all that, the love came out. So again, even though we might do things with the tinge of selfishness, it's better to do that because at least we're remembering Krishna, or at least we're always concentrating on Krishna. And we have that mindset that the more I do it, the more I think of Krishna. Krishna is actually going to come to me. Prabhupada gives the example of a child calling for his mother, right? Very innocent child. Like I see it with my daughter. Oh, she's the greatest person in the world, right? Very sweet, very loving. But when she wants the milk, when she wants the food, forget it, right? Nothing. You can hear her probably all the way in Brahmalok. She's that loud. But the reason I bring that up is then what I see is my wife. She immediately, whatever it is, goes to take care of my daughter. And trust me, when it's like 2 in the morning, 3 in the morning, I'm like, thank God, thank Krishna, she's taking care of her because I can't wake up, I'm so tired. But she does it. That's unconditional love. I think that, they say that's the closest example of unconditional love we have in this material world, that the mother taking care of the child. So for us, how do we should appreciate that and see that. How can we serve Krishna without any deviation, without any selfish desires, and work towards that. The next characteristic he gives is, oh, I'm sorry, this is much louder, sorry. I apologize if you couldn't hear me in the back. The next example he gives, or characteristic he gives, is engaged in devotional service. So, Srila Prabhupada used to quote his spiritual master often by saying, don't try to see God, just work in such a way that God may see you. So a lot of times, again, when we're doing things, we're saying, yes, I want to serve Krishna. But we shouldn't necessarily try to fight to be that person who's standing in the front, saying, look, Krishna, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Right? We have to work. Devotional service means it's not just external, hey, I'm doing these type of things. It's what's in our heart and internally. Right? The reason we're in this world to begin with is because we had some desires, we had something out there that made us want to think, oh, I can do this without Krishna. right? I don't need God in my life. I can do this by my own. So Krishna says, yeah, go ahead. Here's the world. Enjoy it. But understand there's consequences to that. Sorry. Apologize if I keep bringing up my family, but family life, they say family life can be very, can cause a lot of struggle and pain. But I look at it as family life can also teach you a lot of lessons. So we just had, like with my older daughter, we're teaching her what karma means. Because in the sense that she does something wrong, we have to punish her. So she didn't understand that. She'd always say, why are you putting me in the corner? This is not right. She doesn't understand that, right? She just knows that she was doing something, whether it was right or wrong, like pulling her sister's feet or her hair, that's okay. But why am I sitting in the corner now? So now we're teaching her, you do something, there's repercussions. That's what this material world is all about. You do something, there's repercussions. It might be good repercussions, it might be bad repercussions, but there are always going to be repercussions. And then even when we're on this path of bhakti, there's still going to be repercussions. The difference is, A, we understand that there's been repercussions, and B, we know how to behave as a result of those, or because of those, despite those repercussions. And that's what Krishna says, stage of a steady mind, right? We're equiposed. We're not always happy, we're not always sad. So if something bad happens, we understand that as it's a lesson from Krishna. When something good happens, we see that as a blessing from Krishna. So we don't take it to either extreme. So that's what devotional service is all about as well. Everything we do, again, like I said before, you're putting Krishna in the center of your activity. You're working trying not to have any selfish desires. So those are the stages for devotional service. You're going to do things for him, for his pleasure, and the only happiness you get is you know that Krishna is happy, or his devotees are happy. So, again, like the same spiel from before, Krishna says very direct in Bhagavad Gita. So the summary of the Bhagavad Gita is in the four verses of the 10th chapter, right, known as the Chaturshloki. So I'll just read those verses really quick. I am the source of all spiritual and material worlds. Everything emanates from me. The wise who perfectly know this engage in my devotional service and worship me with all their hearts. So again, Krishna summarized basically the 7th chapter, 9th chapter, 11th chapter, 10th chapter, everything. I am the source of everything. So the wise, so all of us, we're wise because we're in the temple today. We're wise. We know this. So we want to engage in devotional service and worship with our hearts. Meaning, we're not doing this artificially. We're doing this because we want to do this, because we love Krishna. The thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. So the devotee, all of us, only thing we're thinking of is Krishna. We're thinking of his service, we're thinking of his activities, and we're not being selfish. We're broadcasting that to everyone else and encouraging others as well. So this is like the preaching verse, encouraging others as well to take up to this path. So those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So now we're on this path. What happens? It's not like we're going to do it on our own, right? Dhruva Maharaj had the benefit of Narad Muni. So Krishna comes in many different ways. Like I said, in my case, maybe my family is there to help teach us, to give us those lessons on how we can approach him. And then the last verse, to show them special mercy, I, dwelling in their hearts, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. So doing all this, Krishna is promising, I will take care of you. I will give you that intelligence, that knowledge by which you can come to me. Because now at the verse that we just read today, what does he say? I'm the swift deliverer from the ocean of birth and death. So the path is there. He gave us everything that we need from A to Z. And Prabhupada wrote in the purport, it's so easy to do. Right? He said this is a very easy process. But it's difficult to actually do it. Because we have all these influences around us. So Krishna is giving us, again, that formula. So we did those things, right? Devoted, giving up all activities to me, being devoted to me without deviation, engaged in devotional service. So the next thing is always meditating upon me. So Srila Prabhupada named this institution what? What does ISKCON stand for?
For Krishna consciousness.
Krishna consciousness, right? What we focus on. Oh, Prabhupada said that one story. Why didn't you name it God consciousness? No, we want to name it Krishna consciousness. But I want to emphasize another word: consciousness. What does consciousness mean? What are we thinking of? What are we doing? Right, all the time. That's in our minds. International Society for Krishna Consciousness. He created this institution, or founded this institution, so that the sole purpose is what? To introduce everyone to Krishna. So why? So that we can always think of him. Give him a way that we can always think about him. So he wants us to come to him, right? He's giving us, again, I feel like I'm a broken record when I say he's giving us everything. And I think a lot of that's good because it helps me remember as well that yes, he's giving this stuff to us. So he's asking us to meditate on him. So that's all right. You want to pick up, like I said, they can hear the lecture too. That'd be great. I don't mind. So he wants us to always remember him. And piggybacking to the previous point of devotional service, he shows us how we can remember him, right? There's two paths of devotional service. In last week, Shambhavi Krishna Prabhu was talking about that a little bit. There's what's known as sadhana bhakti, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, and Raghunuga bhakti. So Vaidhi sadhana bhakti is the have to. The Raghunuga bhakti is the want to. So one of the requirements, I should say, for people who want to take initiation is what? We have to follow the 4 rules and what else? Chant minimum 16 rounds. So I forgot who, a friend of mine said this. Said devotional service starts at round 17. I was like, what? What does that mean? Think about it. So we're required, right? That's why I put it into quotes, required. That's what sadhana bhakti is about. Is we have to follow these rules. Why? Not because our forefathers decided it was fun to mess around with us or make us do things we don't want to do, but it gives us a framework of what to follow. So at the bare minimum, rise in the morning, try to do your sadhana, whatever you can do, chant whatever you can, all that. Not again, yes, we have to do it, but it's to put us in that mindset. Like I said, everything I did before, right? Everything is in relation to Krishna. So round 17 means we finished our minimum 16 rounds, right? The have to part. And we want to continue chanting, the want to part. So we did whatever we have to do. Or again, see, I'm always using the word have to. And I was with Gauravani one time and he was asking something and I said, oh yeah, in the morning I have to chant my rounds. And he looked at me and says, Prabhu, do you have to chant your rounds? I was like, yes. Because that's our mindset, right? We have to do this. We have to offer prasadam, or bhoga to the Lord. We have to do arati to the Lord at this time of day. Have to. Again, growing up, my parents would make us wake up in the morning program, do the morning program at home. As soon as they went to work, what did we do? Run right back to bed and go to sleep. Right? And then my dad would call me, he would call us around 8:30. He says, are you guys awake? We're like, yeah, we're awake. I learned how to wake up very fast when that phone rang. So again, and the reason I bring that up is, again, this is what I see now with my daughter too. How do I do it in such a way that I'm not forcing it down their throat, but I'm encouraging them to do it? So that's how I look at it, even with devotional service. Yes, we have to do these things, but that have to will eventually become want to, as long as we want that. It goes again with what I said, ownership, right? If you're happy with just doing the external, I'm chanting my rounds, I'm doing the arti, that routine, you'll get benefit, but you have to ask yourself, okay, can I do more? Right? How much more can I do other than this daily routine? And I'm not trying to say again that you have to chant your rounds, you have to follow these regulations, but you should look at you internally and see what can I do? What works for me? Because again, the more you're forced to do it, the less you want to do it, right? So find wherever you're at, start at that. Before I went to college, there was this program. I forgot what the background of it was, but we made a commitment to chant a certain number of rounds. So it wasn't an initiation, so to speak, but it was just like a commitment. We're going to chant something. So I said, I'm going to only just chant one round because I'm going to college. I didn't want to do all that. So, Shigornitai ki jai, Shishitaram Lakshmanuman ki jai, Yotonati ki. I'll wrap up, I promise. So I went to college. I had the 1 round minimum commitment. So every day I would chant my 1 round. Like, oh, this is easy. Who says chanting is difficult? 1 round, no piece of cake, no problem. Sophomore year came, I said, you know what? I can do 1 round, let me do 2 rounds. So every day I managed to do 2 rounds. Junior year came, I said, 2 rounds? Nothing. Let me do 4 rounds. So I started doing the 4 rounds. This is easy, half an hour, I'm done, I can do whatever, no big deal. Senior year, I said, this is where I use my intelligence. I said, I will aim to do 16, but the minimum will be at least 8. So most of the days I just did 8, but that was the goal. So I gradually moved from 1, 2, 4, 8, just so that I can keep that practice. And the interesting is, I really did not know why I was doing this. Because, again, growing up, it was the have to. I have to chant. I have to do these rounds. So eventually I learned why. Why are we chanting these rounds? Because it's helping our consciousness. Those 2 hours, I'll admit, my 2 hours weren't exactly, focused on the chanting, but I was like, at least I'm doing it. Let me try to get that. And no matter, the mind went here, over there, or whatever it is, at least 1 or 2, I would try to bring it back in and just try to make sure I'm chanting. And that's when I realized that's what, the whole point of this chanting is so that the consciousness gets purified. Like Prabhupada says that in the record. The consciousness is purified by the words emanating from lotus mouth. Right? So, that's not the rector, sorry. That's the prayers to spiritual master, sorry. So the consciousness, the more we do it, it's going to work, right? Again, ownership. How much are we going to put into that? So after that, right, we already said it, giving up all activities, devoted to Krishna without deviation, engage in devotional service, and in the same time, meditating upon him, which leads to having their minds fixed on him. So always meditating means, again, everything I just said before, constantly thinking of Krishna, putting Krishna in your mind. If you want to do whatever you want to do in this world, do it, that's fine. But put Krishna in the center of that. Keep on thinking about him. Keep on remembering him. So I'll just wrap up now. But so the reason, a lot of this, a great example of this, I would say, is Bhishma Dev. So Bhishma Dev, I'm assuming everyone knows who Bhishma Pita is, yes? Mahabharata, great warrior, great character in the story of the Mahabharata. Pure devotee. But you see his actions are what? He sides with the Kauravas. He sides with the bad guys in the story, so to speak, right? But his mind was always on Krishna. When Yudhishthira Maharaj talks to him, what does he say? You should read the prayer. Those prayers. I think it's in the first canto, right? Bhishma's prayers, all about Krishna. Krishna, 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 Krishna. Everything you do for Krishna. Why? Because Krishna is the one who can take care of you. I had a few verses, some of his prayers, but I guess in the interest of time, I won't repeat it. But again, I would suggest read those verses as well. He's a great Mahajan, he's a great person, but also he's someone who we can learn from as well, right? we're put into situations where it might look like it's great, but it's also very difficult and troublesome. But his mind was always fixed on Krishna. He was ready to take the wheel of Krishna, to die. Why? Because he's like, see his realization in that instance was what? His realization was, I see, Krishna, that your word means nothing because not means nothing. Your word is secondary to your devotees. Right? Krishna says, I'm not going to fight, but because Arjuna was in trouble, Krishna picks up a chariot wheel ready to kill Bhishma because he wants to protect his devotee overall. So that's the end of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, don't worry about it. I will take care of you. Just surrender unto me. And he gives us the tools of how to surrender to him. Everything is right there. Even if you don't have the time to read the Bhagavatam, which I think you definitely should, even if you don't have the time to read the Chaitanya Charitamrita, which again you should, at the very minimum, the Bhagavad Gita is there with the ABCs to explain exactly what we need to do. And even if that's too much for you, Prabhupada gave us the simplest formula, is to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Thank you very much. Now it's time for Prasadam. If you have any questions, you can come to me around here sometime or whatever. Very well.